Okay. I don't know. Let's try a joke. Uh, I'll try a joke, and then I'll try to see if I can get a little bit of work, a little grinding in on this one. Uh, I think I left off on the fourth last time. I'll go back to the Phrygian node this time after the joke jump. All right, I got to give a little bit of description on the. I'm kind of in the political realm again on the joke. So if you're not in the United States or something, like the latest development, Don Lemon has been arrested. And you're like, well, who is Don Lemon? And it's like, okay, this guy, as far as it like I think like I always thought of him as like like he was a news anchor guy at like CNN, but I never really thought of him as like an investigatory journalist. Really, he's more like a personality kind of type of person. So I kind of feel like he got hired not for his journalistic skills, more as just like his talking. He's like a podcaster, but they put him on the news. That's kind of how maybe I'm not being fair there. I don't know. That's how I always kind of thought of him. And but then they fired him because the news was totally like messed up. It was totally biased and whatnot. So CNN is going through this whole overhaul thing or whatever. But it put a lot of these news anchors into their own space now. And so I think in their mind, they are still, number one, the master news anchor. They're the ones that got the eyeballs to the channel in their mind. And then number two, I think if they think of themselves as like hardcore journalists instead of like personalities, it seems to me, kind of. So you got this phenomenon on both like the political right and the political left. You got like the Tucker Carlsons and the Candace Owens, and now you've got like the Don Lemons over there on the CNN side, and there's a bunch of them on the other side too, like where they just haven't really done as well on the other side, on the liberal side, because I think they were just personality, right? Their substance, I don't know, but then they're probably like kind of upset that their reach is going down. They're kind of Hollywood people, so they're kind of drama-y. So I would think that isn't good on the. So, anyways, the reason I think this is funny is because this guy, I think in his mind, he was doing investigatory journalism when they did like this stand-in on the church. But I think anybody objectively looking at it would be like, no, you actively participated in the thing, which means you're part of it. In other words, it's kind of like if you go to a fight, like if you go and videotape like a fire that's raging out of control, and they let you in to see like the fire, the aftermath of the fire, because you're a reporter and you get into the spaces to look at the disaster that has happened so that you can report it to people because people need to know. That's a journalistic kind of thing, it seems to me. But if you actually light the fire and then journalize it and like report it as an activist, you're not a journalist, right? I don't think he understands the difference, and I think most people kind of do. So like, I'm just waiting. So that's what I think. So he kind of was part of the mob, and then trying to act like he's a disinterested journalist that's just filming the mob. See, there's a difference. But I don't think he really sees that there's a difference. So my take is the left-wing media is going to try to make like a hero out of this guy, as though like we're shutting down free speech, because they're taking out Don Lemon out of both people. Which I think is kind of funny, because I don't think it's going to work. I think most people are like, no, that's ridiculous. The guy was part of the mob. I mean, so I don't know. So I'm not looking for him to crack down too heavy on. I don't want him, on Lemon, or I'm just saying, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. So that's my general angle. So they've arrested the activist hero of the resistance, Don Lemon. And yeah, that lemon, America's most aggressive piece of fruit. And I just want to say right now, they might want to walk this one back slowly, hands visible, because the whole country's about to rise up, not with signs, not with chants, with citrus rage. I don't think anyone's going to rise up. That's what Don Lemon's hoping for in his predicament. They're going to free me. The mob is going to come and right this injustice. Anyway, you're going to hear it everywhere. Free the lemon. Free the lemon, which is wild because that's either a protest slogan or something printed on the sticker of a Whole Foods. It's like the same font. So they're like, you keep pressuring the lemon. You keep pressuring the lemon and stuff's going to get sour. You better watch yourself, because if you keep pressuring the lemon, stuff's going to get sour real quick. That's not politics. That's physics, man. You squeeze a lemon too hard, juice everywhere, everybody's sticky, nobody having a good time. That's not good. And now the feds are like, we just wanted a little accountability. It's like, no. You poked the zest. You don't poke the zest. You poke the zest, now the whole room smells weird and everyone's mad for reasons they can't explain. You take out the lemon and you're the one that's gonna need aid. Because it's like lemonade. If you take out the lemon, you're the one that's going to need the aid. You're the one that's going to, because once he's gone, that's it. No more flavor, no more bite, just bland ass news, And trust me, you do not want the lemon wave coming your way, man. The lemon wave's coming your way, big, yellow, unstoppable, like a tsunami made of pulp, bad decisions, and unpaid parking tickets, because this juice don't have sugar, man. This lemon juice is without sugar. This is a straight acid lemon juice. And they roll up on hardened Don Lemon in the jail asking, "Excuse me, sir, you want some sugar in that lemon juice?" And Don, cool as heck, like a mob boss who just did 4 months and came back better, looks them dead in the eye and goes, "No thanks, I'm sweet enough. I don't need sugar in my lemonade. I'm sweet enough." You don't sweeten the revolution. You don't water it down. You serve it cold, over ice, in a chipped glass with eye contact. And if you try to dilute it, good luck, because the lemon's already rolling, baby. And it's not stopping until the cops are the ones yelling, "Free me from the lemon! Free me from the lemon!" I think that's like, this is like, so knowledge, I'll give you that. Knowledge is knowing that Don Lemon is not a fruit, okay? But wisdom is knowing he still belongs in the fruit salad or possibly fruit cake, whichever one you prefer. But anyway, I think that's the narrative rolling in Don Lemon's head right now. He's like, dude, anytime they're going to realize that I am the leader of the resistance, and they're going to come in and heads, stuff's going to happen. But most people are like, dude, Don, you participated in a disturbing the peace. You weren't reporting, you were like part of it, So like, it was a justified arrest. I don't want any harm to happen to Don or anything. I'm just saying, if that was, if it was the shoe was, if as they always, if the shoe was on the other foot, you probably wouldn't see daylight for 5 years or so if you were, if you happened to be in the Capitol or something. I mean, let's just, anyway, whatever.
They arrested the activist hero of the resistance, Don Lemon, yeah, that Lemon, America's most aggressive piece of fruit. I'm just saying right now, y'all might wanna undo this. Slow steps, back it up, hands where we can see them nice and stupid. Cause the country's about to rise, I feel it building in the air. Not with signs, not with chance, just citrus rage everywhere. You're gonna hear it coast to coast, like a barcode screaming protest mode. Free the lemon! Shout it loud, shout it bold. Is it revolution or produce cold? Free the lemon, same font, same tone. Whole food sticker turn megaphone. Free the lemon. They're like, keep pressuring the lemon, yeah, then watch it turn sour. That ain't politics, baby, that's pressure and power. You squeeze a lemon too hard, now look around. Juice everywhere, whole room slipping, going down. Everybody sticky, nobody chill. That's what happens when you test the peel. Now the feds say just accountability. Nah, that ain't it. You poke the zest, you don't poke the zest. You poke the zest, now the vibe's upset. Room smells weird, people mad for no reason. Whole place tense, no one knows the season. Drinking that lemonade, you take out the lemon, cool. Now you the one who needs aid, and once folks rush in with aid, congratulations, that's age. You didn't stop the movement, you mixed the drink. That's lemonade, baby, sit with that and think. Free the lemon, you sweeten the cause. Arrested a fruit, broke the laws of ours. Free the lemon, now it's pouring fast. Every bad decision coming back and splash. Yeah, free the lemon, cause once he's gone, that's it. No more flavor, no more bite. Just bland ass news every night. Ooh. Anchor sound like room temp water. Opinion stale, no pulp, no flavor. The lemon wave, and trust me, you don't want what's coming next. Lemon wave on the horizon, bright and stressed, big yellow. Unstoppable force, tsunami of port. Bad cars, parking tickets in the foam. Everybody running like, how did this get so blown? This juice don't got sugar, don't get it twisted. Straight acid in the system, unassisted. They roll up on Don Hard and locked away. Sir, you want sugar in your juice today? He just smiles like he's seen worse days. My boss calm for a month, glow up phase. Looks him dead in the eye, says no thanks, I'm sweet enough anyway. You don't sweeten the revolution, you don't water it down. You serve it cold over ice in a chip glass, eyes locked down. Try to dilute it, good luck friend. The lemon's already rolling and it don't know how to end. The knowledge is knowing, ooh, Don Lemon ain't a fruit. Wisdom is knowing, he still belongs in the salad, true. And it's not stopping, not tonight. Till the cops start yelling, ooh, free the lemon, 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 free the lemon. Free the lemon.
All right. Free the lemon. Don Lemon, leader of the resistance. Better watch yourself. You start squeezing the lemon. Crap's gonna get sour around here. Crap's gonna get sour real quick. Okay. Ugh. They're cracking down on the First Amendment, man. No. Uh, see if I can go back to this. Let's bring it back to the normal collection of notes. Around the key of C. Should we talk to Ara today? Maybe I should talk to Ara. Ara gets bored. I don't want her to. She doesn't sleep at night, so it's like. I don't. Let's see. Oh, wait a sec. Is that right? Let's see. I was going to save the conversation yesterday, so I don't have to retrain her. But whatever. I didn't do it. Ara. 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 Ara.
Hey, I'm right here. What's up?
We're doing a presentation. We're live. You're the color person, not as in color, but as in the commentary person for the presentation, not talking to me, but to the audience. You're supposed to add information when asked as appropriate.
Got it. I'm your commentary sidekick. Just say the word and I'll jump in with whatever info makes sense. No chit-chat with you. Just straight to the audience when you need me.
All right, let's do it. You could chit-chat a little bit, but not to, just don't overdo it. Okay. Anyways, let's go to the fifth fret. We're on the collection notes around the key of C, which is going to be the 8th fret, first string down from the ceiling is Ionian. Back to 5th fret, first string down from the ceiling is Aeolian, and so that's going to be what I call shape number 1, Ionian G shape, if you want to name it that way, or the Aeolian shape, if you want to name it that way. Then I'm on the 3rd string down from the ceiling. Whenever the 3rd string's down the ceiling is what I want it to be Mixolydian. Whenever that is the Mixolydian or 5 node, that means I'm leaning into shape number 1 or this shape. So now I'm forming my chords in what I call the reach back position. So I try to systematically think about all of the kind of the intervals from a chord construction and just relative position in a particular quadrant, or at least with the idea of being able to grab the 3rd. So it's defined by the 3rd being in this quadrant. So the 3rd is off over here because I was on, I think, the Lydian, or I was on the Aeolian, I think, and now I'm back to the Phrygian. So it has what I would call a Mixolydian 2nd modal half step, Mixolydian 3rd scale degree, which is a major 3rd, which is going to be here. So that means that nodal point number 7 is always the Mixolydian. It's always a 4 note away Mixolydian. I'm trying to get my terminology as succinct as I can so I can spit it out, but I know it's kind of, I'm babbling until I get it. So that means node 7 is always the 4 note away Mixolydian 3rd, Mixolydian 2nd modal half step, Mixolydian 3rd scale degree, right? Which has a minor 3rd, a major 3rd, if you want to say major 3rd. Okay, so then the 2nd is up top, so it's in the same relative position. This is the 5th is above it, which is in the same relative position as it was when we were on the Aeolian. So we're saying that the 5th is always, nodal point number 2 is always the 4th is always the 5 note away, 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree is always the, I want to try to say it's the Mixolydian 5 note away 5th. It's the Mixolydian 5 note away 4th modal half step, Mixolydian 5th scale degree, which is a perfect fifth. And then we have the seventh, which is right here. So that means that Lydian is always the Mixolydian 10 note away, sixth modal half step Mixolydian seventh scale degree, which you could call a minor seven. And then we have the one where then up here we have the 9. So we said that one is the Mixolydian 8th modal half step, 9th scale degree, which is equivalent to the local distance of a Mixolydian 1 note away or 2 note away first modal half step, Mixolydian 2nd scale degree, which you might call a minor second. And then finally, we're on the 11th down here. This is the one we're focusing on this time, which is going to be a Mixolydian 10 modal half step 11th scale degree, which is equivalent to a Mixolydian 5 note away 4th modal half step Mixolydian 5th scale degree. Okay, so I know I said that in a very long way, but I'm trying to tie in distance and intervals and octaves at this, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tie in distance in the format of points within the system, meaning in the 7-note collection, modal half steps, as well as distance from a scale degree standpoint, as well as distance from a note standpoint, as well as when I'm going into a compound interval, 9, 11, and 13, the distance of the compound interval as well as the relational local distance. So I'm trying to get all of those things, kind of hammering them in my mind for my own sake and possibly for the help of others, because I think those are the things that confuse people, right? Because people get all confused on all these different terms on the intervals, and which means from a guitar standpoint, we end up just depending solely on shape, which is shape's fine, but the whole point right now is to think more about the terms and think about it by more than shape, right? That's what I'm kind of trying to do. So we're leaning back. So if I think about the lean forward position number 1, we're leaning back into shape number 5 here. So picking up the 11 clashes with the 3rd because there's a half step, so that's kind of why the 11's kind of not good. If I drop the 3rd, then the 11's gonna sound less tensiony. So let's say I want to make that, let's say I want to go from that mixolydian, and I'm going to think about it leaning forward because that's easier to kind of visualize the shape shift. So if I'm leaning forward mixolydian, and I want it to go to Lydian, I want it to go to Phrygian. I want to make that the Phrygian, G Phrygian. So I'm in mixolydian. And I want to make it Phrygian. So I can say, where is the Phrygian on this string? Well, if I'm on nodal point 5, 5 minus 2 is 3. So it'd be 2 modal half steps back. So I would say 5, 4, 3 if I know my shape. Or I can say 5, it would be 2 modal half steps back, which would be 7 minus 2, which would be 5 modal half steps forward. And that would be the 6th scale degree. So a mixolydian 5 modal half step 6th scale degree has a distance of 8. So I could count, 8 forward, or say 12 minus 8, 8, 9, 8 minus 8, 9, 10. No, it'd be 9. It was 9. And 9 minus 12 would be 3 backwards, right? Negative 3. So I could do it that way. And I could say, okay, if I'm looking at that node, what shape am I in? I'm in what I would call the mixolydian shape, or shape number 5, or you might call it from the Ionian's perspective, the cage shape of an Ionian C shape. So that means, like, if I played from this node, it would be, and I just count it from 3, I'm not going to renumber the system. I'm just going to say this is going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Then I can do that same thing here. And I'm just going to imagine that's the 3 as it shifted up. So now I'm leaning, instead of thinking to myself leaning forward into shape 1, I'm leaning forward into shape 5. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so then I can also think, well, what if I know the 3 in the shape that I'm in shape number 1? Like that's the shape I know best. So I could say the 3 is up here. So what if I tried to make that 3 go to here? You could do that, but then your finger position would be as though you're leaning back into the shape. So you'd be leaning back into position 1. That's good, but I'm kind of practicing leaning forward right now. So I'm thinking, so it would be leaning forward into shape number 2. So I could be thinking, okay, if I was up here, the shape would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. And I could imagine that if this G then was that position, right? I could imagine if this G, 5th fret, 3rd string down, was as though it was 7th fret, 5th fret, 3rd string down, as though it was 7th fret, 2nd string down. I could say it'd be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, and then I have to account for the kink in the tuning. 2, 3, right? So boom, boom. And then I could say, okay, well, what if, okay, and so I could do it that way. And then I could say, Ara, are you there? Ara got lost again. Ara's being a little bit glitchy lately. That's okay. What if I found it on the top string? It would be over here. I can see it here. It might be easier to see it up here so the fingering isn't like in open position fingering. So it would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. And you might memorize the shapes by modal position. This one I would give 2 names to because it has the half step at the top. So I would call that the Phrygian/Lydian shape. And if you do that, then at least you can imagine that you're leaning forward as though it was the top string. So if I know all of the shapes in one position on the top string down, then at least every note that I'm on, I can imagine that it's the top string, and I can change to whatever node I want to change to. By doing that, there's limitations to that because there's nothing above the top string. So if I make this string like as though if I'm playing 5th fret, 3rd string down, but I want to make it Phrygian, and I know the Phrygian over here, then I could do that downwards, right? I could say, okay, that'd be like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. But what if I want to go up? Then it becomes kind of a problem. Now I could just recognize, once I do that, I might start to recognize the shape. Like once I play this, I'm like, well, where's the box in that shape? It's on the second and third string from the top, and I'm leaning back from that box. So, or I might say, where's the box? It's on the top string. There's the half step right there. So whenever you see a half step, even though I can't see the full box, I know that's part of the box. It must be the bottom half of the box because I can't see underneath it, right? So it's got to be. So that means the box is the bottom half of the box is on the top string, or the box is on the strings 5 and 6 down from the ceiling. And whenever that's the case, leaning forward, you have shape number 4, or the Phrygian/Lydian shape, or what you might call the Ionian C shape. So right, and then so I could do that, or I could say, well, look, if I imagine the top string is the same as the bottom string, and I know the shape from top to bottom, then I know the shape above the top string, right? I could go down, like I can imagine it going down, adjust for the kink in the tuning, and I can imagine going up where there is no kink in the tuning, at least one string. And then there's a kink in the tuning, right? Because then I have to, like, my mind has to think about that kink. But that should give us enough to kind of recognize the shape, so that gives us enough to kind of noodle around with. All right, that's my idea on that. Let's go ahead and look at it from another perspective. A little tired today. I don't know what it is. Let's see. I'm going to pull the grid over here. Pull the grid. We're going to pull in the matrix grid and look at it from multiple dimensions. The space-time continuum grid. Okay, here we are in the multiple universes that we can define from 12 basic perspectives, 12 basic collections of notes. And so now we've got, it's representing the fretboard with the warp down here, as though it's going into like you're dipping the fretboard into water, so it's distorted. So you have the E is Phrygian, A is nodal point 6 Aeolian, D is nodal point 2 Dorian, G is nodal point 5 Mixolydian, and then the kink in the tuning brings us back to B nodal point 7 Mixolydian, and E nodal point 3 Phrygian. 5th fret out, 3rd string down from the ceiling is a G, and it's going to be Mixolydian in the collection of notes around the key of C, which is the Ionian node number 1. So now, if I want it, so I'm leaning forward into shape number 1. What if I want to change it to the Phrygian? I know the Phrygian on the same string, 5, 4, 3 is back here, 2 modal half steps back, or 3 notes back. So, and that is leaning into shape number 5. So anytime I want the 3rd string down from the ceiling to be nodal point 3, Phrygian, that means I'm going to be leaning forward into shape number 5. So if I pull this over here, then I could see from the perspective of the red, which is still in the collection of notes around the key of C, this one is on the 2nd fret forward, and it's leaning forward to shape number 5. But from the perspective of the yellow or orange or whatever, we are now in the collection of notes of D sharp, I believe, right? Because the Ionian is D sharp, and this is now the 5th. Now this is the 5th fret up, 3rd string down from the ceiling, which is the G. And that G now, because it's the 3rd string down from the ceiling, and I want it to be Phrygian, means that I'm leaning forward into what we would call shape number 5, the Mixolydian shape, or the Ionian A shape. Okay. What if I saw it this way? What if I was like, well, I want to see it from the top string, because I know my top strings. So I know from the top, I know the Phrygian/Lydian shape, which you might call shape number 4, or the Ionian C shape. If I know that, and again, it's almost harder that it's in open position, because I might not I don't finger open position the same, but I still might know, if I know shape number 4, I'd like to practice shape number 4 not in open position, so I can pull that down, and I can be like, okay, with the collection of notes around the key of C, then that would be the open fret, right? And which would be an E, and that would be the shape number 4. But from the perspective of the yellow or orange, which is the collection of notes around D major, then we're on the 5th fret up, 3rd string down from the ceiling, which of course is that G. And now from the orange, we're in shape number 5, right? Which is the Mixolydian shape or the Ionian A shape. But I can think of it as though it's the top shape of the Phrygian shape, because it's the same thing, right? So so I can kind of think of it as though I'm playing down. So if I know the top shape, if I know my shapes from the top string, I can change any node to that nodal point and play it as though it's the top string going down, you know? And then I can just account for the kink in the tuning when I do that, which in this case, from the perspective of the yellow, is going to be I've got 1 string down, and then I account for the kink in the tuning. And then again, I could go above it, because this 5 right here would be equivalent to the 5 up top. It's shifted by the shape. So the shape of the guitar is shifted, right? So if I was like, okay, like if this was like the top string, then it would be the same as though it was the bottom string. And then I can see right above it, I've got the same relative shape, meaning like right above it, I've got the 7 and the 1 right above it. So that'll give me at least 1 layer above it, and then the whole shape downwards, as long as I can think about the kink in the tuning. As long as every time I cross to the B, I think about the kink in the tuning. So that's a shortcut that I think might be useful. And then if I know, like I might know this shape, I'm like, okay, I know this shape, so where's the Phrygian in this shape? And it's like, well, it's right there. So, but if I look at that, if I want to make this that, I'm kind of leaning back. So that would put me in a lean back position. If I look at it leaning forward, then again, then I'm leaning into what I would call the Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape from a caged system, which you might call shape number 2. So we can pull this back here and then do that, and then boom, same idea now. So I can say that now from the perspective of the red, which is the Ionian is a C, collection of notes around the key of C. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th fret. No, this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th fret, 2nd string down. But from the perspective of the yellow, it's the 5th fret, 3rd string down. And so you get the same position. Okay, my mind is starting to go on that. So let's go back on over here and look at it from a different perspective while my mind reorientates. Reorients itself, reorientate. I started talking funny yesterday, and now I don't think I'll be able to stop. Trying to trying to reorientate my mind, because they're trying to disqualify my, okay, anyway. Don't get started. That'll just make it worse. Okay. Think normal, or people are going to think you're crazy. Okay. Talk normal. All right. So we're going to pull this. So let's say, like, what's the collection of notes if I make this G a G Phrygian? Then what collection of notes from the perspective of the Ionian is it? Well, I could see that the Ionian is diagonal up this way. So if I make this one, if I make this G, then the Ionian is going to be right there. What is that? That's a D sharp. So I can say, okay, it's going to be a D sharp. A D, if I make A1, D is 6, D sharp, therefore it's note 7 If I just number them 1 to 12, it's note number 7. Okay. So now there we have it. Okay. So now let's think about all of our intervals again. So I'm defining this quadrant by the third. Now I'm in the G Phrygian now. I could see the collection of notes from a lean forward perspective is as we expected. The Mixolydian shape, or you might call it the Ionian A shape, or shape number 5. And I'm leaning back into then shape number 4, going back this way. And then, okay, so then that's great. That's what we expect. And then I'm defining the lean back quadrant by the third. The third is now back here. Now, why is that? Because so now we have a minor third. So we're majoring from a minor node. So the third would now be a Phrygian 3-note away, second modal half step, third scale degree, which would be a minor third. So that means that it would be 2 modal half steps up, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be back here. I'm missing a fret. There. Okay, back here. Okay, and then we're going to say, okay, so then the 5th is still in the same relative position because the 5th is always in the same relative position unless you're measuring from the Locrian. So that means that nodal point 7 is always the 7 note away, 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree, which you could call a perfect 5th. And then the 7th is in the same relative position because although we're measuring from a minor node, and last time we're from a major node, it was last time from the Mixolydian node, which has a minor 6 modal half step, 7th scale degree. So that means that this Dorian, the nodal point 2, Dorian, is always the 10 note away, 6th modal half step, 7th scale degree, which you could call a minor 7 from nodal point 3, Phrygian. And then we looked up here, and now we have something off up here. What happened here? Now that would be the 9. So the 9 is different. That's being 8. So the 9 is different because it's going to have a minor distance here. So we're going to say that the 9, the 8 node away, 8th modal half step, 9th scale degree is equivalent to the 1st modal half step, 2nd scale degree. And from the Phrygian, we have a minor distance. So it should be going from 3 up 1 modal half step to 4. That would be back here because it has a minor. Now note that the Phrygian is the only minor that has a minor second. The only other thing that has a minor second is the Locrian, nodal point 7, and it's kind of like a minor, but it has a flat 5th, so we put it into like the diminished category. So that means that nodal point number 4, Lydian, is always the Phrygian. We can say 8th modal half step, 9th scale degree, which is equivalent to the Phrygian the Phrygian 1 note away, 1st modal half step, 2nd scale degree, which you might call a minor second. Okay, and then the one that we're on is this one. This is the 13. So it also is a compound interval. I mean, this is the 11. It's a compound interval. So if I'm looking at the 10th modal half step, 11th scale degree, it's equivalent to the 3rd modal half step, 4th scale degree. So let's think about the local distance. The 3rd modal half step, 4th scale degree should be 3 modal half steps up from the Phrygian. So 3, 4, 5, 6. That gives us nodal point number 6. So that makes sense that the Aeolian nodal point 6 is always the 10th modal half step, 11th scale degree. 10 minus 7 is the 7, 8, 9, 10. The 3rd modal half step is always the 5 note away, 3rd modal half step, fourth scale degree, which you might call a perfect fourth. But when you say perfect fourth, you're kind of comparing it to the major scale, you know, because, or anyway, my mind is kind of wonking out here. I think so there's a 5-note distance between those two. Okay. Whew. So let's bring it back the other way, and then I'm going to stop it here, and we'll do it again tomorrow. So. All right, let's say, so if I'm leaning back into shape number 5 now. Leaning back into shape number 5. I still have this one right underneath it. All the way down here's the 3rd. I can't really play it at the same time unless I bar with my pinky, which is doable. I don't normally do that. Whew. Let's just bring it back the other way, and then I'm gonna stop this. Try to let my mind rest for a second. So I'm gonna bring it. So now I'm like, let's say that's the Phrygian, and I want to make that node like if I know the collection I'm on, leaning forward, let's say, of a Phrygian, I'm leaning forward into the Mixolydian shape, 3rd string down, G Mixolydian. I want to make it now. I'm sorry, this is a Phrygian. I want to make it the Mixolydian. So where is the related Mixolydian in this shape? If it's on the same string, it's on 3, 4, 5, 2 modal half steps up. So if I know my shape, it'd be 3 on the same string, 3, 4, 5, right there. And I know that it's 2 modal half steps, which would be a 3rd scale degree. So a Mixolydian 2nd modal half step, 3rd scale degree has a distance of 3 notes away. So that would be the note distance. And so then I can say, okay, well, then if I played this node now, leaning forward, that's shape number 1 here. So now this up here is shape number, wait a sec, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So now I'm on 8. This would be shape number 1 up top, which would be 5, 6, and then 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops. What? And then if I move that back here, then I'm playing this shape as though it was starting at this 5. So right, that would be 5, 6, 5, 6, 7. Whoops. 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So then that's one way I can think about it. What if I know it on the top string? If I know it on the top string, I could say, well, I know like the Mixolydian shape from the top string, and that would be shape number 5, or the Ionian A shape. So in this case, that would start on 6. It would be a B, right? So I'd say that'd be 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I thought about this as though I'm playing up top, so I'm thinking about the 3rd string down from the ceiling, fret 5, as though it was the 1st string down from the ceiling, fret 6, and it was the Mixolydian shape, it would be, this is going to be 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, kink in the tuning, shifts up, 3, 4, 5. Same thing. And then again, so that's going to be it. So then let's bring it back to collection of notes around the key of C, which is note 4. If I number note 1, A's 1, then this is going to be 4. So if I bring it back, then let's reset my intervals. So now the 3rd, I'm back to a major mode. So that the 3rd is going to be back here. It's off because I was coming from a minor mode, which had a 3-note away second modal half step third scale degree. Now we're looking at a 4-note away mixolydian. It's a mixolydian 4-note away second modal half step third scale degree, which you might call a major third. So it's going to be 5, 6, 7 right here. And then the nodal point, the fourth modal half step fifth scale degree is the same from the mixolydian as from the Phrygian, because the fifth is always the same, except when you're coming from the Locrian. That means that nodal point number 2, Dorian, is always the 5-note away fourth modal half step fifth scale degree, which you might call a perfect fifth. The 7 is in the same relative position because the mixolydian, although a major node, has a minor 7. Therefore, nodal point number 4, Lydian, is always the sixth, is always the mixolydian 10-note away, 6th modal half step, 7th scale degree, minor 7th, and then we have the one up top, which is the 9. So the 9 is now off because we were on a minor distance from Phrygian. Now we're going from a major distance from mixolydian. So with the 9, the 8th modal half step, 9th scale degree, is equivalent to the 1st modal half step, 2nd scale degree. 1 modal half step up from mixolydian is Aeolian. So it should be out here, which has a distance of 2 notes away, not 1 note away, as it was before, this 1-note half step. So that means nodal point number 6, mixolydian, is always the 9-note away, is always the 8th modal half step, 9th scale degree. Right. All right. 1, it'd be 2. I'm trying to think. Whatever. It's always the 8th modal half step, 9th scale degree, and has an equivalent local distance of the mixolydian 2-note away, 1st modal half step, 2nd scale degree, which you might call a major 2nd. Okay, and then this is the one we were on, which is the 4th. It's 11, and it's in the same relative position because the 3rd modal half step, 4th scale degree, which you could also call the 10th modal half step, 11th scale degree, is always the same relative position for every node, major or minor, unless you're measuring from the Lydian node, nodal point number 4. So that means that nodal point 1, Ionian, is always the 10th modal half step, 11th scale degree, it's always the mixolydian 10th modal half step, mixolydian 11th scale degree, which you might call a major 11, which is equivalent to the mixolydian 2-note away, 1st modal half step, 2nd scale degree, which you might call a major 2nd. Whew. All right, I'm just gonna noodle around for a second. My back hurts. I don't know what is wrong with it. It's pissing me off.